The Carolina Panthers walked into Jersey hoping to gain something that they had not gained since 2021. Sitting at 500 right now, Coach Dave Canellis, quarterback Bryce Young, and defensive coordinator Ichiro Avero were hoping that facing off against Justin Fields and the struggling defensive front of the New York Jets would keep their awesome rushing attack going, especially with the return of Chuba. Just how would the Panthers' visit to the Big Apple go? And would the Panthers be able to achieve this long-awaited goal? Find out what that goal is and if they achieved it on this edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Welcome back, Growlers. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on this edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Of course, you're growling with the one and only Mr. CeeLo. And guys, I hope you guys are doing well and hope all things are going well for you as they are for me. This weather is nice. Just a little bit chilly in the mornings, but hey, as long as it goes up to the mid 70s or light 70s, I'm great. Love this type of weather. But things are always good when I can get a triple dip of wins. Of course, my nephew plays for the local high school here. They won. My Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Cut it out.
We got a couple of Notre Dame guys on this team. So guys, don't hate the Irish. Two of them are doing great here at our tight end room. And arguably, when Jatavian Sanders was out, they picked up the slack. And including that one Notre Dame tight end had the opening grab. So, guys, like I told you, always remember, don't hate the Irish. Embrace the Irish. But nonetheless, let's get into it, you guys. First thing we got to take care of a little business. As many of you didn't know, Damian Lewis didn't place, but Austin Corbett returned, and he played in his position. And you could sure tell the difference looking at the offensive line. And this is no knock on Austin Corbett, but he is not Damian Lewis. And then there was so much talk about Dowdle being the better choice. Well, I'm just going to be honest with you. Anybody that's out there talking about Dowdle should be the starter over Chuba Hubbard, you look at the way the game plan was called. Dowdle had two plays in which Chuba Hubbard would have done the same thing. He had two toss plays. And ultimately, we need to stop this. There doesn't need to be a question of whether or not Chuba needs to start or Rico needs to start. Look, I do agree the hot hands should keep the football. I do agree with that. However, ultimately, if we're sitting here trying to cause internal division, then you don't need to be a part of this team. The fact is, you have two quality running backs that are ultimately, one had the benefit of having Damian Lewis and Brady Christensen there at the same time. Listen, Austin Corbett's a good player, but ultimately, we saw issues with when he was playing center. It just seems like Austin Corbett's not that guy anymore. And you hate to trade him if you don't have other guys in place. So right now, he is the best fit as is. And I ultimately think that if Damian Lewis comes back, he needs to go to the bench. Because you can look at this team and tell if Damian Lewis had played this week, you wouldn't have had the argument of Chuba Hubbard over Rico Dowdle. You know, it was just a simply... I saw a lot of issues with the play calling for Chuba as opposed to Dowdle. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, you just like Chuba. I do like Chuba. But ultimately, when you get a different sample size, okay, they're calling a toss, two toss sweeps for Dowdle, and I didn't see a single toss for Chuba. And that is where the weakness of the Jets ultimately is when you get on that perimeter, making these guys tackle. Guys like Sauce Gardner, like they said. I stand corrected. Dowdle had 3 tosses and Chuba had 1. So I don't understand why Canellis was so bent on trying to test that middle of that defensive line of the Jets. That's not where you're going to go. You're not going to beat up on that interior. And many teams that have beaten up on him know that Keenan Williams is not where you need to go. That is not the wisest place to try to run the football. I don't care who you are. But the Panthers were able to get the 13-6 win, and a lot of people talked about the offense. Bryce was 15 of 25, 138. And ultimately, as I said, Austin Corbett left something to be desired because ultimately, like I said, the protection semi broke down up the middle at times. And then even Ickey Ekwonu gave up a sack, if I recall correctly. And needless to say, when you got a guy like Sauce Gardner out there on the field and he's just doing his thing, and I mean, I got nothing but respect for Sauce Gardner. This guy's been doing it up for the New York Jets, and ultimately, when you look at how this team played, it leaves a lot to be desired at times. But when you're talking about a team who is really coming into its own offensively, and you're really seeing a lot of good things, despite the fact that Ekwonu had an 81.2 PFF grade. So, I mean, we're looking at a team that is just consistently growing. It's getting better. When you look at the offensive line as a whole, you got Ekwonu with an 81.2, Leggett 76.6, Dalton 76.1, Mitchell Evans 73.4, and Taylor Moton 77. And here's the thing that I look at more than anything else. You look at the growing process. The growing process of making blocks on the edge. The offensive line as a whole is different when Austin Corbett is out there. So, in a sense, this has to be a situation where you got to say, okay, look, as much as we need him at this point, we got to put him somewhere where he can fit. Because right now, this is not working when he's on the field. It didn't work early in the season, you guys. And I hate to pinpoint a certain individual, but ultimately, he's the guy that is not clicking with this. And we need Damian Lewis back from this injury that he has. We really do. But then we go to the worst of the offense. Bryce had a 58.4. Chuba had a 53. Cade Mays, 52.6. Jalen Coker, 50.8. Jatavian Sanders, 44.4. It was easy to see why Jatavian Sanders and Jalen Coker finished with what they did. Jalen Coker's getting his first action of the season. And then Jatavian Sanders is really getting his first action since week 1. Yeah, and I mean, believe it or not, we can sit here and say Chuba Hubbard. I mean, to me, there was nothing really there for him to get in this game. And then, of course, it's his first game back. So, people need to, pump the brakes on that. And like I said, offensively, there was a lot of things left to be desired. I think ultimately a lot of that has to do with the offensive line. And I think until we ultimately get Damian Lewis back, because look, when you got $150 million on 2 guys, and ultimately you got one that's out, and Robert Hunt, who, like I said, I'm glad we hooked him up. Ultimately, you can't have both of these guys missing. And I mean, it just kind of translates back to when Bryce was there the year 1 and they didn't have, I think it was Austin Corbett and Brady Christensen were playing the guards at the time, and neither one of these guys was healthy. You're back in that same position. And injuries on the offensive line matter. This is why Brady Christensen's re-signing and Cade Mays' re-signing was so big time. And I know a lot of people going to say, well, Cade Mays had a bad grade. Well, guess what? A lot of people going to have a bad grade against Keenan Williams. And then you got Austin Corbett there attempting to help you. Had Damian Lewis played. And then you got to take into account, this is Austin Corbett's first game back. So, while that was an issue, you also got to look at the fact that you've got Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard coming back. And then what was really awesome is that Andy Dalton comes in and has no fear throwing it down the field. I really like that, and he gave XL an opportunity. I think Bryce really needs to, and I hate the fact that it's almost like his height is hurting him to see down the field. And ultimately, when you look at what Andy brings to the party, the one thing I appreciate what he does is he's able to throw it down the field. And he threw it down there fearlessly when to put the game away. And I know a lot of people say, well, that don't take much. Well, believe it or not, it does. And the reason why I bring that up is because I want to throw it out there, you guys, early on, that Bryce is expected to miss this game against the Bills. Now, I want all of you to sit back and think about something before y'all start running your mouths about, oh, snap, yeah, boy, here it come. Dalton win this game. He should be the starter. No. That is incorrect. No. We're not going to play that game. I think that's an ignorant game. I think that's a foolish man's game. We ultimately have a late bye this year, and that kind of sucks because we have to get prepared. We have a very little time to get prepared. I think we're like the last week of the byes, I think. Close to it. Yeah, real close to it. Because we get the first bye in December. So I think that's it. I think that's the final byes of the season. You ultimately want to get a bye right around this time, maybe a week or two later. That way you can figure it out and then evaluate where you're at. You basically get a bye when the season's pretty much over. That's not what you want. Now, if you're going into the playoffs, you could deal with that because you can put a couple of guys on, chill mode and, just kind of relax a little bit. But ultimately, we need to hear some good news about Damian Lewis because ultimately, we need this running game to be full power. And I'm hoping that this injury to Lewis is not so bad that he can't come back. I mean, it's looking like it's a possibility that he could be back. But, you're talking about you already got an offensive line that's already got Robert Hunt and Chandler Zavala on IR. And it's looking more and more like Austin Corbett is going to go back to the starting position at center. I really don't feel that. I think ultimately, Cade Mays won that position. A lot of people are going to say, well, how can you say that about Cade Mays when you don't say that about Rico Dowdle? Well, because Rico Dowdle wasn't playing, Chuba Hubbard wasn't playing bad before this. Just saying, yeah, Rico Dowdle was great. Don't get me wrong. I think he should get a large portion of the carries, but I think Chuba Hubbard should start the game. That's just my opinion on that. I think ultimately Chuba Hubbard wasn't doing a bad job when he was, here from the get-go. I just think ultimately that this does not need to be up for debate. These two guys get their carries. Rico Dowdle got a lion's share of the carries or the majority of the carries, and that should be it. And ultimately, if Chuba Hubbard's carries are not being sufficient for what the franchise wants, then guess what? You make that move. But I don't think you have to make that move. I think ultimately, many people forget you got Jonathan Brooks coming back next season. So ultimately, you need to keep. And then you got Trevor Etienne, a guy who's starting to feel his niche here in the NFL. And needless to say, still early on, but as I said, he's playing into my good graces. Can't say enough about Derek Brown and J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn just absolutely ripped. He just tore it down. Let me go down best of defense. Derek Brown, 85.8. J.C. Horn, 84.9. Mike Jackson, 80.8. Boogie Basham, 77.7. Trevin Wallace, 74.4. That's a guy that really didn't get enough credit for how well he played on Sunday, tearing it up against the run. Trayvon Morris, despite getting a sack and nearly getting another missed tackle, 59.9. Treshawn Wharton, 53. DJ Wanham, 52.4. Christian Roseboom, 47.9. And Lathan Ransom, 42.7. As I said, Morrick did have 4 missed tackles in this game and had a team low 26-8, which is very unlike him. So, in a game in which the Panthers seemingly dominated, not by the score, but in a sense, This game could have been a lot worse for the Jets had Trayvon Moehrig made his tackles. He had one missed tackle that was a sack. So when looking back at this and you say, what could the Jets do better? Well, ultimately Tyrod Taylor came in and he decided he was going to throw at J.C. Horn. Not once, but twice. And underthrew both of them. And you cannot do that with an elite corner. You got to be perfect. You make a mistake, he going to make you pay. And he did. He did. Hats off to J.C. Horn for the way he played. He straight up balled out. Can't do anything but just tip your hat and say, that's that dude. That's all you can say. He went up and he just absolutely took that thing out air both times. One of them was a spectacular one-handed grab. It was just absolutely phenomenal. J.C. Horn is showing why he's one of the best in the league, why he's one of the top paying dudes on the planet. He makes you pay. And needless to say, like I said, there's a lot of you Panther fans that sit there and you say, why we pay him all that money? That's why you paid him all that money. That's why you pay him all that money. Derrick Brown was also great in this game. I mean, he's starting to pick up where he left off when he had that remarkable season where he broke the NFL record for tackles in one season. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, it would not shock me if he ended up, not necessarily breaking it again this year, but getting really close. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, wait a minute there, pimpin'. He ain't got it like that. Well, it took him a while to get going, and here we are in game number 7. We got 10 games left. He's probably not going to reach that record, but when you start looking at the way he's starting to throw guys around, he's getting more comfortable with that knee yet again, and once he starts doing that, there's no telling what the ceiling's going to be for this defense. And needless to say, when I hear a lot of podcasters talking that nonsense about this defense, they're ranked top 10 against the run. We can sit here and whine and moan and groan, oh, the defense ain't getting no sacks. But guess what? They're still stopping people. They're still stopping people. The pass rush win rate may not be high, but they're still winning games. They're still holding it down. I mean, I get it. But look at it. The Jets as a team had 81 yards rushing. I mean, just take it for what it's worth. And I said, Derrick Brown led the team, tied with Nick Scott and Christian Roseburn with 7 tackles, y'all. And had 2 sacks. Made me look like a fool because I had him on my fantasy team and I didn't start him. Dumb shit! But, as I said, it's taking him a minute, but he got 3 sacks on the year, y'all. He's only got 15 tackles, but he's got 3 sacks on the year. I'm going to tell you something. If this is a prelude to that engine getting going, I'm telling you. I am telling y'all, it is going to be a wild ride because this defense, like I've sat here and I've said many a times, you guys sat there and you said, okay, well, we ain't got players around no 3-4, blah, 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 blah. You ain't got the guys, if you got guys like Treshaun Wharton that are not making tackles. And honestly, this seems like one of the worst signings that we had because Wharton has not been good. Now, Bobby Brown's been great. And Ashawn Robinson has still picked up where he left off last year. But I'm going to be straight up honest with you. If Brown keeps playing, Derrick Brown keeps playing like he's playing, and Bobby Brown keeps playing like he's playing, this is going to be, ooh. But then you got a lot of people who are giving the business to guys like Princely Emmanuel and Nick Scorton. They're just rookies. And needless to say, Scorton got a half sack. Princely Emmanuel got a half sack. And, of course, Ashawn Robinson, once again, doing what Ashawn Robinson does. He got a sack in this game. Trayvon Moehrig got one. Would have had 2, but he missed it. And I think that was the one Scorton got. And then you had Derrick Brown with 2. So you had 6 sacks of either Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields, whom was benched in this game. But I was impressed with the way Ichiro Avero was definitely mixing his scheme up, was basically, like I said, you had, if they guys weren't getting sacks, they were getting hits on the quarterback. Trevin Wallace had a hit on the quarterback. You had, Derek Brown had 3 quarterback hits in this game. So, and then he had 3 pass breakups. See, Derek Brown's one of those guys. He is just an all-around intelligent football player. That's what we missed last year, Panther Nation. And a lot of y'all don't realize just how many little things he did. If he was not pushing the pocket, he was not getting sacks, he was batting passes down. That is a dangerous player. That is just an all-around, all-pro player that we did not have on this defense.
Stop the cap.
Stop blaming Ichiro Avero. When you got this guy on the field, it makes all the difference in the world, because honestly, the offense was not great. I did not like the way Dave Canellis called this game. I thought ultimately, he didn't really take into account that he had guys like Jalen Coker back. Because look, let's keep it in perspective. The Jets don't cover well in the secondary. All you have is Sauce Gardner. And then Andy Dalton proved a point. You got guys like Leggett, Coker. If they're one-on-one, you got to get Bryce in the habit of chunking that thing up. Leggett showed you, and he made the play. He made the play.
Who cares?
He made the play.
So?
Rico Dowdle, 79. Chuba Hubbard, 31. Xavier Leggett had arguably his best game since his rookie season. 9 grabs, 92 yards, and a score. And that big 33-yarder that really sealed the game. Ted McMillan, 3 for 33. Chuba Hubbard, 2 grabs out of the backfield, 24 yards. Mitchell Evans, 2 catches, 24. Rico Dowdle, 1 for 17. Jimmy Horn once again with the grab. Tommy Tremble had a grab, but didn't gain anything on it. Jatavian Sanders had 2 targets. Jalen Coker had 2 targets. But the thing is about this tight end connection between Mitchell Evans and Tommy Tremble, this is no knock on Jatavian Sanders. What I'd like to see is Jatavian Sanders stretch the field. Not saying Tommy Tremble and Mitchell Evans can't, but Canellis has got to get in the habit of stretching the field with the guys that he knows he can stretch it with. And Sanders is willing to go up. Jimmy Horn, willing to go up. Mitchell Evans, somewhat. Tet and Xavier Leggett. Coker. These guys are willing to stretch out and go get it. We got to start stretching the field. Take those 50-50 balls. Xavier Leggett just added himself to that list. He did it at South Carolina. Put him on the list. Let me know what you guys think. Tell me which side of the ball impressed you the most. Offense or defense? I'm sure many of you are going to say defense. Was J.C. Horn really that good? Was Derek Brown really that good? Or were the Jets really that bad, you guys? Comment down below. Make sure if you are a first-time subscriber, you make sure you throw your name down there. And if you are interested in joining the Facebook group or the actual page of Growlin' and Prowlin', make sure you add us as a friend or join the group. Finally, make sure you go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can check out all the shenanigans and things I will be shooting during the season. But until the next time, don't forget to leave your mark while prowling the airwaves and growling out. Keep pounding.